separating the myth from the manifestation. This is Seen and Unseen. I am Edgar Eck, and today we cross the line. As I promised in our last episode, we are diving straight into one of the most commonly asked questions in the entire field of the paranormal research. How do people actually get possessed? Whenever someone finds out that I spend my life studying demonology and exorcism, this question pops up 99% of the time. And for good reason. As I always point out, you can only defeat your enemy when you truly know your enemy. Understanding the mechanics of how possession starts is the only way to prevent it from entering your own household. The truth? Possession is rare. No thanks to Hollywood's dramatic portrayals, most people believe it's a simple binary switch. You are either completely possessed or you are completely fine. The reality, however, is far less comforting. In reality, there are strategic levels to demonic activity. Full possession only happens about 5% of the time. And the other 95%? It is demonic attachment, harassment, and localized oppression. Full possession is rare. Demonic presence in a person's daily life is more common than snow in the winter. I have personally been a part of countless cases where families or friends were completely convinced their loved one was fully possessed. Take a young couple who once reached out to me. They were desperate, begging me to perform an exorcism on the man's mother. To them, she was a textbook case of possession. I agreed to meet her. The moment I stepped across the threshold of her home, I knew I was walking into a spiritual playground. I immediately understood why the young couple was so terrified. Occult symbols were drawn directly onto the walls. Hanging in the house was a portrait of Aleister Crowley, one of the most dangerous occultists to ever live, a man I will be doing a complete standalone episode on very soon. Tarot cards were scattered across the living room table alongside Ouija boards and pagan artifacts, dating back hundreds of years. This woman wasn't just curious, she was a committed, practicing occultist. When I walked into her kitchen, I didn't see salt, pepper, or normal groceries on the table. I saw 6 ritual candles placed in a precise geometric circle. Trust me, it wasn't for cooking a steak. The woman herself, let's call her Laura for the sake of the record, was surprisingly welcoming. She knew exactly who I was and why I was standing in her house. She didn't resist me at all. Of course she didn't. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We sat down, and she openly explained to me how she communicates with the dead, how she summons demonic and angelic entities alike, and how she supposedly, quote-unquote, controls them while keeping herself protected. 2 things became instantly clear to me. First, she had absolutely no idea what kind of fire she was playing with. And second, as surprising as it sounds, she was not possessed. How can I be so certain? Because when I initiated a highly intensive, authoritative prayer, she had 0 responsive reactions. When I commanded her to repeat a prayer to Jesus Christ with me, she did it easily, word for word. No fully possessed person on this planet, not a single one, is capable of doing that. Were there entities in her house and attached to her life? 100%. Were they manipulating her mind and actively shaping her reality? 100%. But whatever was in that house had not yet crossed the legal line into full possession. This might sound strange, even ridiculous to some of you, but you must understand the logic of the enemy. The ultimate goal of a demonic entity is not possession. It is access. As long as they have complete access to how you live, how you think, how you make your decisions, they have no functional need to possess you. Why would they bother going through a full process of possession when you are already completely submissive to their whispers and their lies? You are already dancing to their music. This was exactly Laura's situation. She was entirely under demonic manipulation and control, yes, 100%. But she was not yet possessed. So when we ask how do people get possessed, we have to talk about how do demons, evil spirits, gain access in the first place? Or to be entirely direct, how do we grant them access? See, guys, demons cannot forcefully break into your life. They cannot override your free will against your consent and hijack your mind or your body. There is not a single documented case in the history of legitimate clinical exorcism where an entity forced its way in, completely uninvited. Every single victim of possession or severe harassment has at some point in their timeline, whether willingly or completely unknowingly, granted a legal right of entry to that evil spirit. Now, you might ask, how does that happen? Well, the gateway can open a million different ways. The obvious routes are the ones I always warn you about. Direct occult involvement, playing with magic, astrology, numerology, or Eastern spiritual practices designed to completely empty your mind and your soul. This is a one-way ticket to granting immediate legal access to demonic spirits. I have uploaded a detailed technical analysis of these specific traps inside our Seen and Unseen school community. So if you want to see the breakdown, the link is waiting for you right down in the description below. But besides the obvious occult traps, there are far more subtle ways the enemy sets up shop. I have worked cases with people who never touched a tarot card or an astrology chart in their lives. Yet they were heavily afflicted, sometimes by multiple entities. How is that possible? Well, welcome to the logic of the demonic. Think about a thief trying to rob your house. He doesn't kick the door down, turn all of your lights, and start blasting an AC/DC song while you're sound asleep, right? No. He does everything in his power to remain completely invisible. The enemy operates the exact same way. Here are just a few of the silent invitations you might be extending without even realizing it. Continuous unrepentant sin that you tolerate in your daily routine. That is a spiritual handshake the enemy will not let go of. Using the name of God or Jesus Christ as a swear word or a joke. You might think it's just casual speech, but nothing passes their ears. To you, it's a throwaway line. To them, it's a legal notice that they are welcome to walk shoulder to shoulder with you. Deep-seated pride, continuous deception, cheating on your spouse, bitterness, violence, pathological lying, greed, gluttony, and pornography, where a single exposure is often enough to open the door. They will anchor themselves to any of these activities. And believe me when I tell you, they will never let it slide. And what happens next is a textbook snowball effect. It starts as a single glass of wine on a Friday night to take the edge off. A few months later, it consumes the entire weekend. Before you know it, you are locked in a cage and need professional intervention. Look at greed. Have you ever noticed that no matter how much wealth or control a person acquires, it is never enough? Look at billionaires. Greed is a bottomless pit that can never be satisfied. Or look at infidelity. One of the absolute primary strategies used to dismantle a household. It starts with a secret, which requires a lie to cover it. The secrets and lies pile up until the spiritual and psychological fabric of the entire family is completely destroyed. The husband, the wife, and the children, who always take the brunt of the damage. See, my friends, these everyday examples aren't about full possession yet. They are about access. Possession is simply the final destination of a long, uncorrected road. If you are already far from God, destroying your life and spreading darkness to those around you, the enemy doesn't need to possess you. You are already doing their work for them by given them access to you. But if those destructive processes are never stopped, if we refuse to turn back to God and leave the darkness behind before the clock runs out, full possession becomes highly possible down the road. Not because evil spirits need to, but simply for the sport of it. To watch a human being suffer brings them immense joy. Now, if you are sitting there listening to this and thinking, Edgar, that describes almost everyone on the planet. Exactly. Almost everyone. That is precisely why the Bible is heavily packed with urgent warnings about an ongoing spiritual warfare that never sleeps. When we fall, we must immediately repent and get back up. If we don't, our spiritual adversaries will beat us down without a shred of mercy. Possession is not a game. It is not an exciting Hollywood showdown between good and evil. It is a systematic destruction of human lives, relationships, minds, and bodies. But the ultimate irony is that the door can only be unlocked from the inside. You choose who you let in. Look at the original blueprint in the Garden of Eden. Satan did not physically force the fruit down Eve's throat. He didn't physically overpower her. All he did was present an option and spice it up with a few half-lies. It was entirely up to Adam and Eve whether they bought what he was selling. Whenever I break this down, people always hit me with the same objection. Edgar, if God is so good and loving, why doesn't he just step in and protect us from all of this dark, demonic influence? Well, the answer is twofold. First, he protects you from far more than you will ever see, hear, or have the humility to admit. And second, it is very difficult for God to answer prayers when no one is actually praying to him, right? Is it truly fair to point fingers at the Creator for the darkness in your life when you are the one who made the conscious choice to walk away from Jesus and live in continuous sin? It's simple common sense, guys. God will never force you into a relationship with him. Just like Satan cannot force you into possession or hell, we hold the power of choice. So let's stop blaming God for our own free will mistakes. So the biggest takeaway in all of this is that whenever we're talking about possession, we're not talking about spinning heads, right? We are talking about demons having access to you. They can have access to you without having the need to possess you. Access to your mind, to your life, to your relationships, to your household, to your soul. That is their ultimate goal. Now, as always, my friends, if you are serious about moving past the surface level and understanding the actual mechanics of exorcism, spiritual warfare, demonic possession, and the true legal boundaries of the paranormal, the doors to my seen and unseen community are open. Inside, you will find real, verified field case studies from my 15 years of research, access step-by-step training modules, and get direct, raw answers from me during our weekly live Q&A sessions. The link, as always, is right down in the description below. In our next episode, I am going to tackle another massive, highly controversial question. Can a Christian actually be possessed? If you think the answer is a simple no, I am telling you right now, there is a lot more to the tape, and the reality is not as crystal clear as you may think. I hope you enjoyed this episode, my friends. And for now, we have crossed the line. Keep your eyes open. This was Seen and Unseen, and I will see you in the next episode.